Welcome back, spec writers. Long time no see. We wanted to use this edition of our customer corner to show you how you can actually use the paint type and bead type entry fields inside of the Spec-Rite online platform. We'll go through three quick examples. The first one will focus on proof of work. So if you have a customer inquire saying, specifically for this example, you use the wrong material types, bead or paint, you can actually go to Skyview and reference the fact that you did use um, the right materials required for that spec and validate yourself and send that off to your customer. The next two will actually be in the reporting page. The first one we look at there will be on a per job basis. So really being able to recap a job and seeing per day what types of materials you were putting down and how much. And then the second one we'll actually look at is going to be on a per truck basis. So taking the truck over the course of the entire season and again looking at what it put down each day specifically for each material type. We'll just go ahead and just jump right in. First one's going to be like I said, right here in Skyview. We only actually need one layer for this example. So the first step we'll take is setting up a time period. You just want to pick out the time period that contains a specific job you're looking for. I'm using a bit of a custom one since I have our demo portal, but this year should always suffice for y'all. Next is actually picking out the job we want to look at. So the job I'm looking for right here is 116.58. Now that I hit apply, I'll pull up 116.58 here on the map. Now, on the right-hand side, I have all my job details right here. And since my operators are punching in not only paint type, but bead type, I can now see that information here on job details by just navigating over to the material section, finding paint type, and finding bead type. So now I can see over this entire job, I put down 981 gallons of white and 602 and a quarter gallons of yellow. I know all of those gallons put down were WB paint type, waterborne. And I know all the beads that were applied over the course of this job as well were of the standard DOT bead type. More than likely, that's just this state's nomenclature. Again, you can type in type 1, 2, 3, and 4, whatever type of beads you were using. And same, in case you need to use a solvent based or another type of paint, you can enter that as well. But this is where you'd find that information. You can actually click on a specific line if you would like to and narrow it down by there to see exactly what paint type and bead type were used should you need to get more granular. So again, you can see, hey, I put down 11 and 3/4 gallons of yellow. All of that was water-based paint, and all of the beads applied on top were standard DOT beads. Now there is a shortcut here if you already have a template set up to include both paint and bead type in your report, and you can do that by doing it here, but we'll go through the full process. So we'll actually just jump into the reports page now. In order to actually create these two reports we're looking at, we'll need to create a custom template. That way we can include our paint and bead types in our metrics. What you'll do is come up here to new template and fill out this. I've got a custom one here that we'll walk through filling out. As always, you want to give your template a name that clearly defines what type of data you're going to see in the report. Next, for this example, we're using a time row command. That way each row populates on a per day basis. And then next, we just want to pick out the data points that we need to include in our report. So the ones we've been harping on are going to be paint type and bead type. Those are found down here in the advanced options of entry fields. So once you click advanced options, you'll find your paint type and all of your bead types here. Now we do have multiple bead types in case you do have different bead types in, whatever bead guns you have on your truck. That way you can differentiate. If you do use all three, make sure you include all three. If you just use one, you can only include one if you want to. I'm using two for this example purposes, but once you've picked those out, you just have to fill out the rest of the information you want to see. It can be the same as what I'm kind of breezing through here, or it could be different just depending on what specific information you also want to see in this report. If you do want to include information on black, just make sure you check the advanced options under counter channels and rates to find all of your black metrics. Same thing for beads. Beads 2 and 3 are going to be found in the advanced options of the beads tab. So if you are using 2 and 3, just make sure you include the usage for 2 and 3 as well. That's it for this template though. I don't have anything from temperature, geolocation, calibration, or miscellaneous, but once you've created that template, you can now hit save. Now that your template's saved, we can actually start running the first of those two reports we talked about. So now we're going to be looking at a report on a per job basis. So what we need to do is first name our report. I'll call this paint and bead type example. I'll pick out the date range that I was looking at before for 1/2020 to November 4th of the same year. Since I've already got my template and I've already got my type, now all I need to do is pick out my truck. And once I've picked out my truck, you can pick the corresponding job. Once you've got all that information selected, you can now save, and that report will generate here in the background. You'll get the pop-up saying that it's doing so right up here like you normally do. Now I did cheat a little bit and I did pre-create the exact same report in here so we could check it out and not have to wait. That said, this is what you'll see when creating that per job report. You'll be able to see each day of that job, the types of material that were put down. So again, we know we put down water-based paint on the 19th and the 20th, as well as standard DOT bead types. And then you can see the exact usages for that type of paint right here, and the exact usage for that type of bead right here. Now, those are the 2 days we had work for. Again, as normal, if you click on it, it'll show you what was painted. But if you go down here, you'll now have your totals. So you can see as a recap for the entire job, what was put down by material type. So one thing I do want to point out, it's not just about, did you have any shortages or any excess from your original material planning? We do want you to keep an eye out for trends and patterns. For example, say you after running about 4 or 5 of these reports on different jobs, you find that a lot of your jobs have shortages. Did those jobs correlate with any other jobs that maybe had timeline delays? Noticing patterns like that. Now, the pattern doesn't have to necessarily be negative either. Say you had 3 project managers, and after running the same 5 reports, you notice that all of Ashley's jobs are very, very precise when it comes to material planning. You can now take that information and go to her saying, hey, you're doing a kick-ass job. What are you doing to be so precise? Can you share that with the rest of the group, the other project managers, so we can really dial in what we're doing process-wise and be more efficient when it comes to planning out our jobs? That said, that's it for this report. You can export it as always, like in an Excel or PDF, should you need it in a geo file as well. And if you didn't like it, maybe you did it wrong, you could easily delete it should you need to and keep things clean inside your reports log. But that's it for that one. We'll take a look now at the per truck report for the entire season. So since we already have that template made, we don't have to make it again. We'll just come up here to a new report, pick out paint and bead type template again. We'll name our report paint and bead example 2. Since we're looking at the entirety of a season, I'll play it safe and go all 365 days, 1/1 to 12/31 of 2020. But once we have that filled out, again, we want to pick out the truck we're looking for. And now that we've got that truck specifically, we want to pick out all jobs so we can see that so we can see everything that was done by that truck throughout the entirety of the season. Once we have that, just click save like we did on the other report. That report will generate in the background and you'll get your pop-up just like always. Again, I'm a bit of a cheater, so I do have one pre-built that we can look at and we don't have to wait for it to show up. Clicking view report, we can now see everything this truck has done throughout the entirety of the 2020 season. So again, calling your attention over here to our usage statistics, our types, and then our bead statistics. You can see here that for each day, again, we were using the water-based paint throughout the entirety of the season for this specific truck, and they only put down standard DOT beads. Now you can see they just put just shy of 6,000 pounds down of standard DOT beads, as well as 834 and a half gallons of water-based yellow, as well as about 1,128 and a half gallons of water-based white. Now, a little bit different from the per job report. This per truck report really is to give you a great foundation or baseline for next year. The example I like to use is I don't think anyone ever goes into next season planning to have less work. I think the goal is always to acquire more. So, that being the case, what you could really do when it comes to planning for next year and inventory control for the new season is using these as a baseline to see, okay, with that expected growth in jobs, where do I need to start for a minimum requirement on my material planning? There's other uses, right? We don't want to pigeonhole you guys into just one use for these reports, right? The more your mind moves and the more you think about it, the better, because you probably will find uses that we probably didn't initially explain to you here. We could go on and on, but we just wanted to show you three quick examples. That said, if you guys ever do have questions about any of this stuff, please do reach out to us, whether that's through the Life Raft here, whether that's to me directly. Um, but yeah, it was good to be in front of you guys again. And just remember, if you ain't spec right, you're just spec wrong. Have a good one, y'all.